G'day, this is Cece from Generation Wellness Global, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about homeschooling because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. That's true of most things when it comes to parenting, because you don't know until you have one, and then you've got to find out all this stuff. Yeah, so when you become a parent, there's this really steep learning curve, and yeah, I had to learn everything the hard way. I didn't have any friends who had already had kids, so that's why I became really big into researching and sharing information, because it's really hard to figure it all out by yourself. I have learned. So the homeschooling is really interesting because a lot of people have preconceived ideas. Oh, I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't have the patience. I'm not a teacher. There's lots of things like that. Now, the other thing is there's lots of ways to homeschool. So you don't have to assume that you can't do it because you're not a teacher or you don't know what you're doing. You can actually find what will work for you if it's something you want to do. I was talking to, it was actually my kid's music teacher, and she was talking about her daughter who was doing distance ed because she was a dancer, and so the rest of the time she was at dance school, and so she did the rest of her schooling via distance ed, and that kind of gave me the confidence. I was like, oh well, then I could do that, because then someone would be sending me the curriculum and I wouldn't have to figure it all out, and it gave me the confidence to look into it and to think I could do it too. Now, if you need that and want that, that's absolutely great. That, upon further reflection, I realized it wasn't what we wanted to do, because my daughter was already bored at school, and I was like, I don't want to be bringing the same stuff home and trying to make her do it at home if she's already not enjoying it at school. So, but now it works differently even across states in Australia. So I can't tell you what it's like in the States or anywhere else, but look into it for where you're at. It's different everywhere, but in Queensland or in Australia, distance ed comes in a lot of different shapes and forms, and some are more like school, and some are a lot less like school, but they generally, provide you the coursework, and then you step through that with your kids at home. Now, because you don't have the lining up for assembly and the different things that kids do at school, you can usually get through that work in a couple of hours in the morning each day, and then go on to other things if that's what you want to do. Distance ed programs and packages tend to be expensive, so it kind of depends on your budget. In Queensland, if we don't do distance ed, our homeschool reporting requirements are that we show progress in English, maths, and one other subject. So you have to show progress, like over a period of 3 to 6 months. My child has progressed in English in these ways. My child has progressed in maths. We did a measurement project here, and then we did another one here, and you can see how they've developed the concepts. And then one other subject of your choosing. So one year we did chemistry, and one year we did science and technology, and another time, I don't know. So that's the requirements. Now, I think there's homeschooling and then there's unschooling. Unschooling is not sitting down making the children do schoolwork. Generally, that's the kind of more consensus-ish view of what unschooling is. It's not, it's allowing the learning to be child-directed through play and activities, and you don't make them sit down and go, right, today we're going to learn this and this, and you have to do some English and some maths and some geography, and it's not doing those things. Now, the biggest catch, I think, for most parents, aside from their lack of confidence in themselves, is that we're brought up thinking that children have to be sitting down to learn, to absorb information. And it really challenges you when you first start homeschooling to relax a little bit, my children have just played Lego and done this and da da da, especially when you're unschooling. And you're like, what have they learned today? But it's really fascinating because watching them create is just phenomenal. And the way they can turn anything, you can turn anything as a parent, but they can also turn anything into a learning opportunity, anything at all. You know, one day we were eating some pea chips made out of peas, right? Pea chips. And they come in 3 colors. There's a beetroot colored and a turmeric and a spinach or something, I don't know. And we pulled out 3 green chips. And that became a lesson on probability. I don't even know if my kids are supposed to understand probability, but it became a lesson on probability. And so we looked at some basic probability, you know, how that works. And we could then, you know, look up a short video about someone explaining probability, or do some activities, rolling a dice and counting how many times it's, you know, lands on 6. You can. So we kind of took that thing and had a discussion and then turned it into a learning opportunity. And that can be true of anything in life. The kids want to go and buy something at the shops. How much change? You know, most parents do that, whether you school or unschool or homeschool or any, you know, but it's really about just understanding that that's all learning. And it's also, I think a lot of parents think reading and writing is stuff you have to be taught. And I'm here to tell you that yes and no. My kids learned to read without any assistance from me, because they were read to, they enjoyed books, they enjoyed stories, they enjoyed time with mummy, and they were watching and learning as I was reading. And they, you know, they're just naturally, children are naturally curious. Children naturally seek learning and growth. That's how they learn to talk. It's how they learn to walk. It's how they learn everything. And then we sit them in school and go, right, now you have to sit down, and that's how you're going to learn everything else you need to know in life. And it doesn't have to be that way. And if your kid's happy in school, that's absolutely fine. I'm not criticizing, but it's just a lot of parents think that they can't homeschool because they're not a teacher, they're not skilled enough, they're not. But it's like, kids are natural learners. We just have to keep that joy for learning, and they will go and seek. We go to the library and we get books on everything, on science. We got one about Africa. We get cooking ones all the time because my kids are cooking, food obsessed. Yeah, and then we come home, we just kind of sit through. We've got one about how to service a car, because I think that's a good knowledge to have. And we go on the most amazing excursions, because there's a community and you can tap into like what interests your child and find so many activities and excursions and camping trips and all sorts of amazing things. So I guess I'm just saying, don't think, firstly, that kids have to sit down to learn, because that's something that we've been taught to believe. That is not true. Kids learn by doing, by interest, by loving, by, you know, they seek out things that they're fascinated by and just ask lots of questions. And if you don't know the answers, these days you've got a phone that's got Google. You know, my kids don't do screens, but they know how to Google something on the phone if they want to understand something, or learn more about it. And mum doesn't have the answers, or dad doesn't have the answers. They always say mum. Ask mum, she's a scientist. That means that apparently I have to answer every question. I'm like, no, you have to learn to learn. You have to learn to go and research and figure it out for yourself. So, but you know, like the way their minds work, I explained some simple chemistry concepts to a 9-year-old. They shouldn't, you just go, this is not year 3 stuff. But anyway, simple chemistry concept. He comes back the next day and says, so if carbon likes to share electrons, does that mean that they can create like chains and rings and stuff? And I was just blown away that he's taken a simple concept and just being able to apply it. And for those of you who haven't done organic chemistry, that is the building blocks of everything that we are made of, that nature is made of. Carbon chains, that's organic chemistry. That's everything that creates life. And he just figured it out. And then we talked about silicon is similar. So we've talked a lot about, how people have theorized about silicon life, and you can take it any way you like, right? So don't think that kids have to sit down. Also, don't think you have to be an expert in everything. Don't think you have to be a teacher or a scientist or whatever, because they're just going to be naturally curious and interested, and you just have to help them learn how to find the answers. So go to the library, go to excursions, look around for people who have similar interests and share and connect. And it's just amazing. There are kids that put on markets, so they're creating products to sell, they're figuring out their price point, they're advertising, they're like all of these things. And if that's not a life skill, then I can tell you I'd rather my kids know how to do that than calculus. But and the thing is too, you can then create, so instead of your kids learning what's in the school program, they're learning things about life, things that they're interested in, things that they want to have a future in. And so quite often homeschool kids are earlier to volunteer, earlier to get a job, because they know where their interest lies, and they will seek out opportunities to work in that or volunteer in that industry. They will, because they've followed their interests and their passions. So, and again, if school's working for you, I'm not criticizing that, but I've got a friend whose son just wants to fish and play football, and but goes to school and has to do Japanese and has to feel really stupid about Japanese, even though he will never ever want to have Japanese or languages or in any kind of interpretive services in his future. Like, it's just, and yet what it does to their self-esteem, like if you've got a kid that's just loving it, and okay, like every child's different, but when it really hurts the child and wears on their self-esteem because they're being proven regularly that they can't do something or that they suck at something, it's really unfortunate. And so I just think that, I suppose I'm just trying to give confidence that homeschooling can be tailored. Homeschooling can be what you need it to be, and you don't have to be the expert, because there's so many communities, resources and excursions and amazing things and libraries. And my kids did a year of robotics programming stuff last year, because that is not my thing, but they could go and learn that somewhere because there was a homeschool group learning robotics and programming. And they actually went in a competition at the end of the year, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. It was really amazing to see the kids do that, and they competed against other school kids that were learning that stuff at school. So there's so much. There's other kind of alternate schools that are starting up for people who are homeschooling, so that you can kind of have a school day or a day with other kids, so that you can do things like performances or sports carnivals and things like that. So you've got to look around. There's so much out there, and they do not lack for socialization. They have a very busy social life, and I would like to just have more time at home with a book. All right. So, but it's amazing. It's amazing. And I know that my biggest hurdle was me and what other people were telling me. That other people were saying, oh no, don't homeschool, no, they'll really struggle for socialization, they'll really struggle with this, they'll really, and I was like, no, I don't, you can't really argue when you don't know, and you're just trying to figure it out for yourself. And I struggled with myself because I was feeling like I wasn't doing enough. I was feeling like I had to make my kids sit down and learn, and like you're always like, oh, are they keeping up, are they doing enough? So but that was my stuff. That's our stuff, because that's what we've been taught and trained. And it was, I just now, watching them grow, watching them, my kids write plays and comic strips. This is, and I'm just, when I say write plays, like this is a child who used to have a meltdown if you asked her to write a sentence. And we worked on the emotional stuff because we were at home and we could do that. She didn't have to just go and suck it up and try and do remedial. And, like we could work around what's going on emotionally. Why are you struggling with this? And to be honest, we just didn't do a lot of writing. And naturally, children aren't supposed to really acquire that skill until about, on average, age 10. So even though she would have been forced to do it from age 5 and gone through all sorts of emotional stuff, we could slow it down, go at her pace. And we didn't do a lot for a lot of years. And then she decided she loves theatre and drama, and playwriting was something that she could engage in happily. And now journaling every day, writing plays, writing crazy stories, like just loving creating and expressing their ideas through writing. And I didn't have to feed it into them at a younger age. I didn't have to make them sit down and do it. And I think that's where, I always say, like, as adults, we go back when we realize we're passionate about something, we go back and retrain and learn it. Why do we think our kids won't do the same? If they decide they're really passionate about vet science, or if they're really passionate about drama, or they're really passionate about something, they will go and do everything they need to do to make sure that they can go and achieve that. If they have that understanding of how to learn and they have that desire and passion sustained and supported. And, my kids do algebra in the car for fun, because give us one of those crazy equations again, Mum, so it's a different life, but don't shut down to it. If it's something you've been interested in or thinking about, please look into it and ask lots of questions about what you require in your area, because every state, every country will be different. But please reach out if you have questions. I would love to hear from you. And I hope that helps. I hope that just answers some questions and gives you some food for thought. All right. Have an awesome day. And I hope that, just helps you understand that there's so many different options. And homeschooling can be whatever you need it to be, really, in my experience where I am. So please just keep an open mind and look around and explore. All right. Have an amazing day, everyone. Bye.